Welcome to IMC Charlotte. So glad you're here. My name is Thia Powers, and I'm one of the six lay Dharma leaders that take turns in this seat. And tonight, I would like to talk about something that I think I need to hear myself talking about. You've heard that we teach what we most need to learn. And so tonight's talk is an exploration of simplicity, because things feel like they've gotten really complicated lately. In our lives, in our meditation practices, simplicity is so key. So let's begin with a definition. Simplicity is the quality of being easy to do and/or the quality of being easy to understand. That sounds so nice to me right now. You know, I need some easy right now. Some related ideas to this are things that are uncomplicated, things that are natural, things that are sincere, people who are sincere and innocent, not gamey. You don't have to second guess or figure out. The mere word simplicity evokes a pleasant feeling for me, maybe for you too. And we know by nature, life gets more complicated. Things tend toward proliferation, toward getting more and more complex. When writing this talk, I noticed my love of words and that I do not shy away from complicated words. In fact, I am drawn to them, words like proliferation. Proliferation means a rapid increase, to spread, escalation, or expansion. The Buddha warned us against this, against mental proliferation, because oftentimes when we sit, he knew we would begin to think and overthink and compare and go into judging mind, even about our own practice. And even though thinking can be enjoyable and even profitable, a lot of people get paid to think. Overthinking can also exhaust us and take us down a long and winding tunnel of thought that can possibly never be resolved sometimes and may not even be true or worth pursuing. We might waste a lot of time going down rabbit holes. So I'm already in danger here of using too many words. Let's go back to simplicity in our lives and simplicity in our meditation practice. What could that look like for us, and how might we get there? We're conditioned more often than not to seek out material things, to seek out more friends, which can mean more commitments, and yes, more stimulation, even dharmic friends, and even Sangha connections. Looking at it simply, we're mammals. We're social animals with relatively big brains, and that has led us to a life of excess stimulation and excess consumption and an excessive number of possessions. Now, this is not true for everyone, but it's true for many, and I'm sad to say that I'm included in that group. When we have too much to manage, maintain, or keep track of, we risk becoming overwhelmed with obligations and overstimulated with interactions and eventually agitated and exhausted. Have you ever been so tired you just feel like you're vibrating? You know, you can't sleep, it's hard to sit, that kind of tired. The Bible has a verse that says in Matthew, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy." This is, of course, talking about the spiritual life versus the worldly life of accumulation. We need to store up treasures that are long-lasting and indestructible, and this is what our practice is about. This seems to go in cycles for me. Proliferation and accumulation ramps up, it becomes too much, It's followed by simplicity and a time of cleaning out and clearing out and cooling down. So you might notice if you have any of these kind of cycles in your own life or in your practice. I see it there as well. It seems to me that cycles like this are not bad. We see them in nature. It's the extremes that are not so good for us. In the United States now, it seems that millionaires are almost like the common folk, and billionaires are the new moneyed class. The work hard, play hard stakes have gotten unbelievably high. Private jets, private islands, private chefs, nannies might seem the norm if you're young and at the pinnacle of your game right now. I feel thankful that I'm not of an age to be a player, even possibly in that world, where a life of stimulation and endless possessions is believed to lead to happiness and satisfaction. So about now, you may be thinking, well, I just want to see for myself if a private jet stocked with fine champagne and multiple beachfront properties do not lead to deeper happiness. You know, ehipassiko, right? Let's go see for ourselves. We can read daily about these folks who have had it all, and then suddenly they've ended up divorced and alone, drug addicted, or have been sued for infidelity, or they're in prison for tax evasion or fraud, victims of their own greed and desire because they could have it all, or so they thought. The other side of the coin is voluntary simplicity. That is a popular concept now, perhaps to balance out the bacchanalian revelry of the current time. There's a move towards living in a way that is outwardly more simple and creating the richness and its reward in our interior lives. Tiny houses are a good example of this. Growing our own food, choosing exercise over excess is another. This wholesome simplicity is what the Buddha Dharma is pointing us towards. The Buddha himself went from relative riches to extreme voluntary poverty, almost starving himself to death, and then self-corrected, balanced out into what he called the middle way. Albeit still living quite simply, he was subsisting on the generosity of those around him in exchange for his teachings. That's the history of these begging bowls, these singing bowls. Sometimes where the only possession was a bowl that a monk had for food, for everything. So again, how do we move towards simplicity in our consumer-based society? And how do we honor the simple parts of our practice and not feel like we're missing out on some of the profound teachings and experiences that we can also have? So the interesting thing is, it's always a paradox, right? That it's not easy to make things simple. It's kind of tough. Some people, though, seem to have a knack for it. And I hope those folks, there might be some in the room, there might be some online. I hope some of these people will speak up in the conversation after the talk. I think, though, this is why I'm married a minimalist. Some folks just do not tend to keep things or want things or be overly sentimental. They tend to let go more easily and desire simplicity more than comfort. Maybe for these folks, simplicity is comfort. I'm not wired that way. I am learning because I'm tired of shuffling all my stuff around, of cleaning it and organizing it and finding ways to get rid of it. Maybe give some thought to what your default choices are. Do you enjoy owning and using just the right tool or gadget? Do you yearn for the latest fashion or technology or car? Or do you tend to mend, recycle, repair, and refurbish? Maybe some of both. One easy way to move towards being ecologically simple is to stop buying single-use plastics. An example is getting those huge jugs of liquid laundry detergent. Instead, you can get a box that will last you for a year of a dissolvable laundry detergent strip. Think about what you consume and go for the less packaging and the biodegradable whenever that's an option. This is less trash for you to process and recycle. It's easier on Mother Earth, too. When preparing this talk, I wanted a proper definition of simplicity. So, of course, I looked it up, and the internet, being what it is, began immediately populating my screen and inbox with simplicity book offers, simplicity magazine discounts, every kind of article about simplicity, and life coaches lining up ready to help me for a fee simplify my life. So many people want to simplify their lives that being a professional organizer and life coach is a pretty lucrative field. And Marie Kondo, just to name one, became famous for her loving kindness methods of simplification and letting go. Another interesting thing to note is that when we acquire our gadgets and technologies, oftentimes the very ones that we're drawn to are the elegant, well-designed, you guessed it, the deceptively simple ones. The Apple laptop, the Tesla automobile, the Eileen Fisher clothing line, all are examples of high-end simplicity in our consumer world. Steve Jobs, founder of Apple, said focus and simplicity was his mantra. And he commonly said, simple is harder than complex. It involves getting your mind clear and your thinking clean. That stopped me when I read that. Could the concept of getting your mind clear, your thinking clean, i.e., clarity, be part of what we're experiencing when we simply sit together quietly in these rooms every week and watch the breath and scan the body and check in with our mental state and how our heart feels? Let's pause here for a moment. If your eyes are not closed, I invite you to close your eyes again and let go of everything that I've just said. Let the words drift away. Come back to your breath in your body with absolutely nothing to do but be for a few more seconds. Ask yourself, is this moment okay right now, just the way it is? Nothing needs to happen. And slowly open your eyes. Isn't clarity what leads to insights? When we honor the simple consistency of our practice and participate in community, we won't miss out on the profound teachings in this practice. Clarity is the natural byproduct of meditation and mindfulness. Just sit, commit to stillness, and keep returning the attention lightly to the breath and the body, just letting stuff come and go. Noticing lightly what might be happening without clinging or manufacturing any kind of specific experience. I had the opportunity to lay on a blanket in the backyard today and look up at the clouds. I hadn't felt the sun on my legs in months, and it was just perfect, windy and blustery and warm and cool at the same time. And the clouds were moving quickly and high. And just those few minutes of simple practice really changed my day. in a wonderful way. So when we've been doing this for a number of years and we begin to study or maybe hear some teachings, we might start to feel like there's a lot to remember in the Buddha Dharma, a lot to know. We do have a lot of lists, and there are 8 or 9 volumes of books in the Buddha's teachings. So the main thing, I think, is to not be overwhelmed with that, but practicing with heart, like really put your heart into it, and with commitment to the stillness and to the silence that is the breath and the body. Simply being aware all of the time, as much as we possibly can. That's the main thing. Washing the car, being aware, feeding the cat, being aware, putting our shoes on, being aware. And I'm not saying the teachings are not for us. They are, particularly if you enjoy studying and reading. The Buddha Dharma is vast and profound, and it's so exciting to experience some of the complex teachings that we come across. But we can then sometimes feel like we don't understand. And then we make a story about that and go into some aversion maybe. Or we feel like we do understand, and then we begin craving or getting puffed up because we feel like we get it and we want more of that. Many of the teachings point to how we crave becoming this or becoming that. And here we crave becoming a better meditator, becoming a more peaceful person, a kinder person, becoming. Isn't this moment ever good enough just the way it is? All this becoming creates suffering, even if it's Dharma related. And if we create the suffering, how can we uncreate it? By consistently sitting quietly with ourselves and with each other, knowing the truth about our being in the simplest ways, the breath and the body, letting thoughts pass by like clouds, letting a multitude of feelings rise up and pass away. We'll sit with cravings and sadness and know that. We'll sit with happiness and satisfaction and note that. With anger and pain sometimes, getting to know that part of ourselves better and better. Until eventually we're less reactive and more observant. The Buddha called it dispassionate, but we don't like that term, do we? Dispassionate just means that we're less concerned and less involved with all the things that tug at us every day, even on the cushion. And sometimes more and more, we might notice that we're released from craving. We don't want so much as we used to. And we come to the cushion eagerly, willingly, to our practice as respite and as refuge. So this is the beginning of a simple practice and a deliciously simple life.